glorify God and I'll be in heaven. Where it's kind of like, if you really read the scripture, and I think is what you're kind of tying into, that's not necessarily a life that God has called us to. You know, you don't have to struggle financially in order to be considered a blessed child of God.
And that's a really good point. Like, you don't have to be blessed and struggling. Like, it doesn't have to be a synonymous thing that it looks like it has become. And to your point, we're going to go a little bit deeper. Could it be we're the community, right? So partially, the community doesn't even know how, so then they can't help us in our areas of struggle either. So when it comes to, you know, unfortunately, in a lot of setups, you know, we hear about whether it's building funds or always having to fundraise for something and never having access to money to just be able to do something, it plays into our personal life. It's like what we've seen, right? So at some point we have to start shifting and changing that particular dynamic, all right? So I want to transition into some money pitfalls. Yeah. We're going all the way in. We're going to make sure there's time for this. So I'm going to name some. Tell me which ones resonate with you. In the comments, if you feel like I'm missing something, go ahead and put it in there. Here are some common money pitfalls. You need a credit card to have credit. All right. College and not even being sure about the career you want. You're going to be the first generation going to college. Your family's pushing you to go to college, but you're not really sure what you're doing. Spending money you don't have, especially on things that can't make money for you. Car, furniture, and you know, some of us have families that they don't even touch the dining room except for special occasions twice a year, but you got the nice plates and everything out there. Went into debt for it. Clothing. Right now, veneers are big, right? Your teeth, cosmetics, right? Not paying off debt. Moving out versus living with your family if you need to, right? Desire for more no matter the cost. Pyramid schemes. Now, I don't know if you remember this one where everybody was, it seemed like was holding this blue sign like you should be here. Yeah. That was a classic one. And then don't trust social media, because what you see, they don't tell the whole story. So which one resonated with you guys the most? And tell us in the comments, Leo, which one is resonating with you guys on social media or on Facebook, on YouTube the most?
And are you accepting comments in terms of adding to what you already listed?
Yeah, either add something I might have missed or tell us which one is just like, oh, this is definitely true.
Well, one comment here is vacations.
That's good.
Vacations, that travel life. Yeah, that's true. So which one was the one that really hit for you guys?
So I think for me, the college one hit because I see it a lot. Like I'm only out of school at like 2 years now, and I like to talk to people that are like about to go to school or in school, and I feel like a lot of them are in that mindset. I'm like, oh, I'm not really sure, you know, like what I want to do, but like they just know that you're supposed to go to college, and that's why I'm here. And it sucks to see some of them, you know, going into debt because of that. And it's like, well, you're going into debt, you don't even know what it's for. Like, you don't know why you're going into debt. Like that, it hurts to see, because I'm like, man, a couple years from now, you're gonna probably regret that decision. But it's just like lack of knowledge. They didn't know any better, so they just thought this was the path, so they walked. You know.
No, definitely. Are we going down the line? Which one hit for you?
Definitely concur with the college, especially depending on your background. I think kind of like what you're saying, for lack of knowledge, the people perish, right? So for me personally, first generation Haitian American, so your parents came to the country for a better life for their children, and college is definitely a part of that. And not being in a position where the parents can pay, it's kind of like doing whatever you can in order to make that dream manifest. And going into debt for that, and you're thinking like, okay, it is an investment, and essentially, you know, in a way it is, but really making sure you have a great return on that investment, though it make sure you are prepared. And I think there's just so many layers to it because, you know, granted, you know, my parents, they didn't have that knowledge, but sometimes where you see other students who parents do have the knowledge about how to properly prepare to pay for their children's college in the future or whatever that direction may be, and being able to still pass that knowledge down to their kids as they go on the path of college or maybe something else. So really, the whole paying for college is a very multifaceted and unfortunate situation where a lot of us go into serious debt just to be a part of the quote-unquote rat race.
No, that's a good one. I think with college, I learned two things. So one, don't downplay community college.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that's a path I took despite people saying, oh, you're just going to the 13th grade. Look, the 13th grade qualifies, right? Right? It's still a degree. And this is the other thing. My 2 years in community college, I was getting money back. Between the scholarships, the grants, that's how I paid for my first car, was through community college and the cost being less than the amount of money I was getting through grants and scholarships. So don't let anybody look at you or downplay the role that community college can have. But the second thing is, you're in no competition with anybody else.
Amen.
So you're not in competition with anybody else. So guess what? Even if it takes, you know, you're like, oh, college is supposed to be 4 years. If it's going to be smarter for you to pay as you go so that once you graduate, you have no debt, if it takes you 6 or 8 years, guess what? You're debt-free compared to the person that did it in 4 and it's now paying 10 years afterwards. So really think through, and you know, you're going to get the questions, when are you going to be done with college? Like, you've been in there forever. Guess what? I got a plan, and I plan to be debt-free. So that's something to consider. But continuing.
Okay, so I think the one that really resonated with me was the pyramid scheme, the get-rich-quick scheme. And I think I saw a lot of it mostly during the pandemic, right? And on social media. And the way they like brought you into it was the whole notion of you can go on the vacations, you can have the cars like I do, not knowing that these people who are advertising it are renting these cars, taking pictures, and probably return them right after, right? But we're thinking that, oh, if I invest in this get-rich-quick scheme, I can have that car, I can go on vacations just like them. But what we're also not knowing is that the way it's set up is you have to get people to sign up under you, you have to be paying for the products, you have to be paying to keep the membership. You're losing more sometimes than you're gaining, especially if you're someone who doesn't have a large following on social media, if you don't know many people, if you're not really good, if you're not knowledgeable on how to really market yourself, that kind of thing is hard. So I think that one.
And you'd probably like potentially dragging people down with you. And that because it's dependent on the people behind you to keep on recruiting people, and it's really only the people at the top that are benefiting.
And you're selling them a dream, basically.
Right.
I would say I think you guys touched on big ones, and I think it can be grouped together, right? I think utilizing credit badly falls into all those categories. Whether you're buying a car that you can't afford, you're getting a degree where you're not going to get a good return on your investment. I don't think credit's bad. There's ways to use credit really smart that can profit you, right? But if you're using credit badly, that's a pitfall that's going to end up something you're going to have to pay for years out. Whether you're using a credit card to buy things you can't afford and the interest rate's 22%, that's money on top of what you already bought that you have to pay back. You're going to school to get a degree in something where you're not going to be able to like have a guarantee to get a job right out of college, or you're going to be making an income that's not enough to pay back the loans that you took on. Those are pitfalls that can be extremely costly to your financial life, some things that people never recover from. So it's something to really keep aware of and make sure you're using credit wisely versus using it for things that's not going to give you a good path to success.
That is so true, because I can add to that because I have experienced the same thing. It's as if every time you want to try to buy something, it's the matter of having the credit. You know, it's like for you see it as a way of out. if you want to have this, you just have to swipe. Just keep swiping. But then you don't see the amount that is piling up. And at the end, sometimes you're like, wow, that's a lot to pay off. And you don't know how it piled up. So using it very wisely and know what you're using it for, that's a good thing also.
Do we have any further comments, questions, concerns to add to the conversation? All right. So if I might also interject, even if you have a health crisis, so let's say you car accident, the ambulance costs a lot. Yeah, so this is also a factor.
Definitely. So we talked a little bit about college. Let's talk about spending money we don't have on things that can't make money for you. So let's stay there a little bit. What do you say? I'm going to just kind of leave it open. When you think about that, and you can think personally, you can kind of think what you see with your friends, your family, social media. What are those things that kind of come to mind, and why are we putting ourselves in those positions?
Ooh, can I go first? I think one of the major things that's causing that is not knowing. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. So not truly knowing the difference between a want and a need. Not knowing the difference between a want and a need. Because I think because of how society makes everything seems like you have to have this, you have to have that, everything seems like a necessity. So we're not able to compartmentalize or separate our wants from our needs.
Yeah. And we have to realize that companies have a whole marketing department. So you have people in marketing, you have sometimes in marketing teams, you have people that have psychology degrees too, that know, like, I remember in my marketing class, they taught that the positioning of certain items in the supermarket are eye level, right? And so sometimes you'll notice that lower cost items will be below that in an area that you won't necessarily look, or pay attention to lighting. Where's the spotlight shining on? Like, marketing is a big thing. So when you're thinking about wants and needs, especially for things that you never really would have thought of, beware that there's a group of people that have been planning for you to try to convince you that your want is actually, how have I lived without this?
Can I add to that one? So another trick that they use is, like, say for example, you go in a department store, like one of the major department stores, the way they have everything set up, like, when you're walking, it seems like something's in your path. They strategically put them there just so that you can walk straight into that, see it right there. Exactly, and stop and get that item.
That is so true, because I feel like that's the way they get you. Because you might come to a store and you're like, okay, this is what I have to get. But then as you're just waiting, it's like you see those little things just looking at you, and that's how they actually get you very quick. And you just end up buying it. And when you come back home or whatever it is, you don't actually need it at the end of the day. So that's a good way.
And just to piggyback on what you all are saying, we have a little thing we call retail therapy. Today was a tough day at work. Let me just go in the store, see what's cute and pretty. This is going to look real good on Sabbath. Let me go ahead and buy this. And I think it goes to say also knowing yourself, right? Yeah. Understanding that you're probably purchasing unnecessary things that are wants, to fill some type of void. You're trying to work out something within yourself by doing something external that is unnecessary and could essentially put you in a financial hardship. So really understanding yourself as a person as well.
Deep.
And I want to add something else. What about the fact that we're living in a microwavable society? Like how everything is so instant. For example, you can go online and get it the next day. It's like I think all of that adds to our inability to have self-control and discipline
And you know
the
they
proper
watching
stewardship.
everything we do. You just go on Instagram or on a website like, oh, that's cute, and you go away. And when you come back, it's like all the ads are the very thing you were looking at. And you're like, hold on, wait a minute, Jesus, maybe you want me to buy this. And that's not even
But
it.
you actually don't need it.
Yeah,
That's how
and
they get
you
you.
don't
need it.
need it. You don't need it.
So is there something wrong with treating yourself though? Like,
So I stayed quiet for the most of it because I feel like I look at it differently, and I'll explain my thought process, right? I believe there's nothing wrong with buying things that you want or things that appeal to you if you're doing it within, let's say, a budget, right? I believe in guilt-free spending within parameters of money that I set aside for myself every month. And people approach budgeting differently, right? You have people who don't budget and they're buying things that they don't know where they're at financially, and it's like, I'm putting this on the credit card. Do I really have the money for it? But when you budget, you're like, oh, I've set aside X amount of dollars every month to spend on whatever I want. So I know for me, I like buying food, right? I like to eat good food. And before I started budgeting, I would buy food, and I'm like, can I afford this? Like, granted the money's there, but am I spending properly? But then I set aside a budget according to percentages. Like, oh, I want to spend like 50% of my money on food every single month. So if you know that number in your head and you're tracking that throughout the month, I don't have to second guess myself when I go to Chipotle like, can I afford guac or can I not afford guac? It's like, oh, actually, I have this budget of X amount of dollars and I haven't even hit halfway through it. So yeah, I'm going to buy the guac because I can afford it and I want to buy it. So I think it's okay to buy things that you want. It's the problem when you buy things that you want that you can't afford. That's the problem, or you don't know if you have enough money for it.
So you're saying balling on a budget.
Balling on a budget, yeah.
And also, to add to that, is also look at what you have already. You feel as if everything new in styles, you want to have it. You need to have it. But then at the end of the day, if you kind of go back and look what you have, you kind of will be able to budget yourself out and just buy what you need and not really just piling yourself up with a bunch of things it's just not necessary for.
is there anything online? Right?
Yes, just a comment about being impulsive, if you guys can kind of dissect, because sometimes it sounds like many people are impulsive shoppers.
So impulsive shopping. So I guess the advice I have with that is, one, they say don't shop while you're hungry, right? Don't go to the grocery store while you're hungry, right? So, right. So you have to be careful of the variables at play before, something like that. And if you've already done it, and you kind of like have that regret, that remorse, try to start setting up some parameters for, okay, this was my trigger last time. Let me stay ahead of this for the next time. So again, with grocery shopping, don't do it while you're hungry. When it comes to like clothes shopping and stuff like that, the most amount of money I spend on clothes is usually when I'm about to go on a trip. And so for some reason, you buy a whole bunch of things, all for this trip. When you think about it, yeah, you want to feel good on your trip, but the people that at the destinations you're going to have never seen you before. So that means you can potentially wear some things from your closet, do a couple of things, and it's a brand new fit. And guess what? Either way, whether it's the old stuff or the new stuff, they never seen you, and they might not see you again. So it's like, really, maybe if it comes to clothing and you're into fashion, this is what you like, maybe that needs to be part of your budget. And even when it comes to travel, don't totally max it out just because you're going on vacation and you want to take these pictures and all this type of stuff. Really think through any of those spots that your impulse could take over. I think that's one of the ways you can do it. Jamal said he's still buying his clothes before the trips.
And just to tie into that, I really appreciate the fact that you're kind of clarifying, like impulse shopping, still being able to treat yourself within means. Like I personally, I enjoy shopping. It's pretty, walk down the aisle, why not?
Right.
Why not?
But in the same breath as we are, trying to be more fiscally responsible, I know some of the things that I have taken on, like, Marjorie, do we already have this? Do we have something that look like this at home? Okay, if we have something, okay, I'm gonna put it back. But if it's something completely brand new, nothing like it in my closet, okay, we're gonna go ahead. It's in reason, it's a good price. And I like to tell people, I don't pay full price for nothing. Like when I go into a store, straight to the clearance rack. What's we got back there, in order to also help with being fiscally responsible.
Right.
But then I think it also boils down to your intent, like the reason behind why you're doing these things. So I'll use the example for the whole trip and shopping. And you mentioned about, buying the clothes to take the pictures. But some people, I find, they're buying these clothes, taking these pictures to post on social media to show that they're living this lifestyle, to let everyone know they're doing all these things, when the true reason for the trip is to go and enjoy yourself, right? So I think it boils down to why are we doing these things and starting from there, because I feel like we can't create new habits if we haven't thought of why we have these ones to begin with.
Right. It starts with an honest conversation, to be honest. So with this, let's transition into, let's start talking to some of us in the room that are already in some of these situations with debt. We know our struggles with certain things. So someone says, I've done a budget, but it's hard to maintain. What are some practical tips to use a budget in my life?
So I'll take this one because I'm a big proponent of budgets. I think it allows you to live the way that you want to live based on the money that you're making. And I know for me, I use an app called Mint, and it keeps me honest. I connect all of my accounts, every single card I may have. I connect all my checking accounts, so I know exactly where my money's at. And it categorizes things for you. So it's like, oh, you spent X amount of dollars on food. You spent X amount of dollars on housing. You spent X amount of dollars on transportation. And from there, you can look at your trend for the last, let's say, 6 months and say, here's how much money I make. And I'll even go a step further because most of us, I don't know if all of us have heard about artificial intelligence, right? It's like a really big talking point that you hear in the media right now. But you can even use ChatGPT to build out a budget for you, right? So let's say you tell ChatGPT, I make $1,000 a month, and I want to build a budget, and I want to emphasize these portions in my budget for these things based on how much money I'm bringing. It'll break it down for you. You don't need to pay people to do these things. You can hop on there right now, tell it how much money you're making, say you wanted to make a budget, and then when you have this budget, you're like, okay, I can do these things. I can allocate my budget. I can shift resources to where I want to like put money towards. If you're not using that money, you can do whatever you want with it, or you can invest it, whatever it may be. But having a budget helps you understand, and I'm gonna use this term, live within your ways, because you're right. Some people do things with the intention to show off for people or post it to social media. And if you can afford it, if you're being responsible with your money, it's like, hey, go ahead. If you want to look nice and do that. But it's a problem when you're doing it for these people, but you can't afford it. It's like you're putting yourself in debt to do things for people, but you end up going to have to pay more for what you're doing. So it's like when you have this budget, when you have a budget set up, it allows you to really just it's almost like you're taking this weight off your back. Like, oh my God, like, can I afford this? Like, actually, your budget tells you whether you can afford it or not. So, yeah, that's what I think.
I think to piggyback there, I think I recently had a new understanding of budgets in that they are liberating. Like a lot of people think of it as restrictive and burdensome, but when you do it the right way, you're able to see, like you said, what's coming in, what do I want to prioritize? All right, this is what I have to pay for. Now the rest is what I want to pay for, and you can decide what you want to pay for, and that's literally liberating. Like me, I like to travel, so I have so many different savings things, just like little pockets that I put money for trips, and it's amazing. And when I go on a trip, and I'm like, oh, I just had it there for me. It's nice, I don't have to think about it. That's what you're saying. You don't have to wonder or feel guilty about making purchases. I had another point, but I forgot, so I'll let someone else go.
And just to piggyback on your point, I think also the whole point of really knowing thyself, because sometimes even the method of budgeting could have an impact on whether you're consistent or not. For example, with my bank, they actually have it automated where they can show me all the things you're saying, money coming in, money going out, the percentage I'm spending on food, entertainment, bills. And for whatever reason, it just didn't work for me. I was not being consistent with that. But for some reason, a friend of mine sent me an Excel sheet that her and her husband use. And I'm like, oh, this is a better method. I can use this to, be consistent with budgeting.
And I was actually going to say that money and budgeting is not one size fits all. So you're going to have to kind of explore and see what's going to work for you.
Yeah, so the other thing I remembered was that, like, when it comes to budgeting, like the person that you read that comment from, it's not going to immediately work all the time. Like, 1 month, like, oh, wow, I was over budget. That doesn't mean, like, well, throw the whole budget away. Right. It's like, no, you make the adjustments, try again next month. It's not like a test that you fail and, well, that's the end of it. The beauty of it is that you get to keep moving forward. As long as you're living, there's continual chances to get it right. So just keep making adjustments, keep trying different things, different apps, different strategies, and eventually you will find something that works for you.
I was gonna say, I remember I used to do for work like this different reporting, like all these trend analysis and stuff, and I was like, why do I do this for my own finances? And I did the same thing. I built a worksheet inside Google Sheets, just like tracking everything. I put in all the functions. I spent some time to do it, but as I input the numbers every month, you think about reporting and data, when you get a broad perspective of data, you understand exactly where you're at. You can do trends analysis, see if you're up or down, but when you're looking at it, every month by month, it's compartmentalized. You're not looking at it holistically, instead you're looking at it in silos. But when you build these worksheets, and you can find templates online too, but when you understand this trend, oh, okay, I want to increase my savings by this much for the year, and you start tracking that month by month in this worksheet, and then you see, okay, am I increasing my savings over time, like a trends analysis? If it's going up, it's like, hey, I'm actually doing something good. But when you realize, oh, it's starting to go down, it can tell you, okay, I need to stop what I'm doing right now because this is counter to my long-term goals. And you can kind of give yourself a reality check to say, okay, I see the data, I see the numbers, I see my trend. It's not going the way I want it to go. Let's kind of shift the focus. Because it's not for you to be like, well, my trend is going down and that's it. Like how you're saying, you just give up. It's more so for you to constantly improve over time. Because when you try something the first time, you may not get it done perfectly. But over time and consistent practice, eventually you're going to hit your goal because you're in the game. You're still trying versus where you're sitting out the game and you're not participating.
Absolutely. So what would you... Okay.
The question was asked, do you guys thrift, and what do you think of thrifting?
Oh, you said you're a believer in thrifting?
I remember one time I was looking for work clothes. I was like, I'm going to go to Goodwill, and they had polo button-up shirts. People are getting rid of quality good things. You don't know what happened to them, but I'm not against it. I think sometimes you find really good quality stuff. I remember when I first moved into my place where I'm living now, I was looking on Amazon for bowls and all of these things, and they're charging $15. You go to IKEA, it's $15 for a regular bowl. I went to Goodwill, and I found good quality things that I'm you throw it into the dishwasher, you clean it off, it's perfectly fine, it works. Amen. So I was for me, there's no problem with that. I think there's nothing, you shouldn't feel bad about buying quality things for a cheaper price just because someone used it already.
And I would say with that, look around your house. If you're trying to get out of debt, and get ready, because I'm about to ask you guys what's your tip, your finance tip that you would want to leave to share with somebody. Look around your house, and if there's certain things that you can sell it. Maybe you should become the person that's selling to thrifters, right? And so if you haven't used something in a year, that might be eligible. And you know what? Even if you get $5 for it, that's more than what you were getting before by it not being used, right? So really look around your house and be honest with yourself. I haven't really used this in a long time.
But the sentimental value.
The sentimental value is not
making you a dime.
All right, it's not making you a dime. And I'm not saying you can't keep anything, but really be honest between what's sentimental and what's hoarding, right? Yeah. All right, so what's that financial tip that you would leave with the viewers and listeners today?
All right, I'll start. Be honest with yourself. Take an actual look at your finances and be honest with yourself and where you're at, because there's no way you can move forward if you haven't been honest with yourself. The steps is always, getting over denying, So one, be honest with yourself so you can actually see where you're at and then take it from there. If you're really at the bottom, okay, well, now I know where I am. I only have up to go from here. If you're in the middle, great. All right, let me find ways to keep going up. But it all starts with honesty and knowing where you are.
Be open and willing to learn. When it comes to finance and money, that's usually one of those hard conversations that people aren't willing to be honest about. And if you are allowing yourself to be open and willing to learn, there can be a whole world of possibilities to help you live the life that you want when it comes to finance. I know for me, for example, ever since I was a child, my mom always told me, save, 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 which has been a blessing. Save your money, save your money. But with that, as I've gotten older, I've also learned it's not only about saving, but also investing. Allowing your money, not just to sit and build, but allow your money to grow and work for you. And there's so many different ways to invest. I know when I first learned about investing, you hear about the stock market. I'm like, that's not for me. Those risks, and you look at numbers going up and down, having palpitations, I can't live that life. But there are so many different ways to invest that could fit a multiple of different people. So be open to learn.
I would say for me, community. You got to surround yourself around like-minded people. And it's not to say to abandon everybody, but if you are surrounding yourself around people that are just trying to live this life that appears nice, then you're going to see yourself competing with this same group of people because it's all that you see. But when you start surrounding yourself with people that have maybe done things that you want to get towards, and you start getting into these communities that have financial conversations, they're in businesses that you want to get into, like, put yourself in those circles, and it'll almost be like you have no choice but to succeed in those areas because that's what you're now surrounding yourself with. I know not everybody's a fan of Dave Ramsey, but one of the things that I heard from him that was really good is, like, live like no one else right now so you'll live like no one else later. And what that means to me is basically there's certain things that you're going to have to do now that might be against the status quo, but it's going to help liberate you later so that you have no limitations when it comes to those same things. So be willing to do that.
My tip would honestly be, as you're learning to help yourself, don't forget to learn how to help others. I remember I heard a pastor say one time, God doesn't bless us to add height to our table, but to add length, right? Right?
Come on now.
And that really resonated well with me because I think we live in a society and a culture that is a me culture, a me. How can I get this? How can I do this? How can I buy this for myself? And we're hearing less and less about people talking about how to help those around them, right? So just be mindful of that. And as you're growing and as you're learning how to budget better and learning how to be more honest with yourself and about your finances, don't forget to think of how you can be a blessing to those around you as well.
I think the main point I would emphasize is saving and also investing, but really emphasis on the investing because I think it's something that we don't talk about enough inside the church, especially within our community. But the power of investing, especially long-term investing, where you think about how money can grow. And I pulled it up because I was like, I wanted to make sure I talked about this. It says, if you ask an average person if they want to have a penny doubled for 30 days or $2 million, likely most people will say, oh, a penny doubling 30 days, I'm going to take the $2 million. But if you were to come to find out that after the end of the 30 days of a penny doubling, it comes out to be $5.3 million. And it's to emphasize the power of compound interest and how money compounds over time. So for the people here that are super young, if you say you're 20 now, you're making a little bit of money, but you're putting money into an investment, let's say $5 every month, and as you increase your money over time, you're putting in $10 and $20 and $100. By the time you're ready to retire, just imagine how much that money can be over time. You think about a snowball forming at the top of a mountain. As it catches on more snow, it becomes bigger and bigger to the point that it's so big that you can't stop it, right? So there's one thing about saving money. You can put money aside, and most checking accounts don't give you a lot of interest on it. But when you start investing money, you're making a return of 10 to 15, 20% of your money over time. Historically, you think about just the length of it, 20 years in time, how much money can really just multiply and grow. And it's something that's so key to really setting yourself up financially to invest money over a long time. Just let the money sit there and let it grow, let it do its thing, because if you think about past performance, it's not indicative of future performance, but 100 years of the stock market, it averages about 10% each year. That money will grow into something significant that can really set yourself and your family up to be in a better place. So saving and investing.
As for me, I feel like you guys have said everything that I wanted to say, but I would say don't let yourself be too influenced in a way, because sometimes we kind of do things for people, you know, we kind of like don't think about it. It's as if you see what's outside, you kind of like, I have to do it, like just for the, you know, for people to kind of see it. So it's like, kind of think about it and just don't let yourself be too influenced by it. And just let God, just ask God for help in certain things that you probably won't need as a long term.
I like this. So this was really, really, really good tips that I think if you're a viewer, you can take something from this, start trying some new things, and you can even immediately start seeing some differences in your life from here on out. But this is not it. We're transitioning, so I'm going to hand it back to Leo right now.
Thank you, Brother Shane, and an excellent program indeed. Ultimately, what I have gotten is it's not how much you make, but how much you save. So sometimes some folks think that, hey, the more I make is the more I have, and there are things within us that needs to get corrected so we have the right appetite so that it shows in our finances. So I would like to welcome, I believe, Pastor Bain to come and speak with us for a minute before I end the program. But I would like to thank the panelists of experts. Definitely was edified. Definitely you guys are more than qualified. We got different perspectives. Thank you so much. Pastor Bain, I'll hand the mic to you.
Thank you. That panel was dope, weren't they? They're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. I took some notes. Thank you for giving me financial advice. Very, very good. And you guys are pretty cool. And so I want to show you a video. A video that's going to have all of you salivating. A video that's going to bless you. And so I want you to watch this. And then I want to share a little bit about what this video really means for young adults all over the North American division. Watch.
Come and experience beautiful Alaska with amazing people, fun activities, and a unique way to serve in the mission. It's a vacation with a purpose, a mission trip, a cruise, and a spiritual retreat, all wrapped up in one meaningful adventure. So we invite you for a 7-day Alaskan cruise from September 3rd to the 10th, 2023. Come and embark on this adventure with us, where we go and serve, and also we see spectacular Glacier Bay National Park, whale watching, and stops in Ketchikan and Alaska's capital, Juneau. We can't wait to see you there. Join us at cye.org for Alaska's 2023 Mission with a Purpose.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the Center for Youth Evangelism out of Andrews University called me and asked me if I would be so gracious to lead this young adult cruise that's going to happen September 3rd to September 10th. Center for Youth Evangelism has this cruise with a mission, a vacation with a purpose. And so we go all over the world doing cruises where we connect young adults with service opportunities so that they'll be able to live the gospel and share the gospel with their hands and feet. We are excited about this trip to Alaska because it is discounted so heavily that those who would come on the trip would see that you'll have a savings of over $1,500. We got the cruise down to about $600, all right? And so I think it would be a great opportunity for you to join so many young adults from across this entire division who will go out and do service projects in Alaska. So we'll be in Juneau, which is the capital of Alaska, and we're going to do a service project there to a woman's shelter. Okay, that's going to be an enriching experience. Then we're going to go over to Ketchikan, and we're going to do a service project over there with an at-risk kid and spend a day with them, and even spend some time sharing with homeless people. When I thought about it, I looked at the fact that Jesus himself walked this earth homeless. Did you know that? He said foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. So if we worship with Jesus that walked this earth homeless, right? And we walk past homeless people, what does that say about our religion? So we want to spend some time connecting with them and really helping them along their journey. So this is an invitation. Go to cye.org. That's cye.org. And you can find all the sign-up information. Everything that you need to be on this cruise is there. If you have any questions, you can feel free to send me an email or a text. My email is ricardo.bain@secsda.org. Let me say it again. ricardo.bain@sda.org. All right, and you can reach me at my phone contact is 516-427-0872. It'll be good to have some of our young professionals come on this trip. I tell you, it will be a life-changing experience for you, and you will enjoy yourselves. Okay? Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your space. Thank you to Pastor Sai, my good friend, doing an amazing job with the young adults of this conference. May God bless you, each one, as you continue to fellowship and enjoy this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Bain. Can we give him a round of applause? Excellent, excellent. Just curious, Pastor Bain, what temperature would it be then? Would it be cold? Okay, Pastor Bain. All right. So, go ahead.
So, what was the question? Yeah, so next year we're going to the Caribbean, and we are looking at an Eastern Caribbean cruise, okay, for 7 days, and we're going to do it at a time that's a little bit more accommodative for us on the East Coast. You see, this one is going from the West Coast, so September 3rd to 10th, they're not in university over there yet. They're not, you got it? So it made sense to do it at that. But if we have young professionals who have PTO, who have time that they can do vacation, listen, this would be an excellent opportunity for you to come and enjoy Alaska. All right? But we go to the Caribbean next year, and you'll start seeing promo information out. We're trying to do that one in about June, July next year. All right, that's when we're trying to push it. So more of us would be able to come, and we're planning, and it's my hope that we can get one of those stops. I know it's not in the Eastern Caribbean, but I'm from the Bahamas, so I wish we could get one stop there. Even God vacations there, so that'll be good to have y'all enjoy a good time there. But the reality is, yes, we're looking forward to a great time in Alaska. A few of you come and just ambassadors to share what happens there. Life-changing, I promise. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for your promotion, Pastor. So, as you know, before I close off with prayer, we have a grand social. What did I say? I don't hear the rrr. It's grand social. So we'll be having a grand social this evening. What time, Pastor? 8:30. Be there or be square. All right? So we're going to close off in prayer. Can I have everyone to stand as we come before the Lord to thank him for this program? Thank you for the leadership of Pastor Sai. Thank you for all those who participated in the panel and the organization and Guilgal. Let's thank God for what he has done today. Dear merciful Heavenly Father, so much to be grateful for. You have provided us a place to not only worship, but to continue with fellowship during our social events. We want to thank you for the speaker that came this morning that lit us ablaze with not only spiritual and scriptural nuggets, but practical, relevant information that can make us very, very knowledgeable and essentially effective and useful, not to be so heavenly minded, but also be of great earthly good, so that we won't be slaves and debtors and be indebted, dear God. So we want to thank you for that information. It definitely resonated with me. There are many of us, like myself, who are minimalists, who definitely intentionally live below our means, but dear God, there's so much more we can do to be better, not only for ourselves, but also for others. You have been more faithful to us, God, than we have been to you. You have been more faithful to us, God, than we've been to ourselves. So we want to thank you, dear God, once again, to take this moment to honor you and to give you praise. Thank you for all that you have done and all that you will be doing throughout our lives. And as we depart from one another, may we never depart from your side, from your sight. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. You may be seated.
So we can take about a 5-minute break as our speaker who spoke this morning or this afternoon comes to prepare himself to give our next phase of our program. And he's going to present on a seminar to just make the conversation a little practical. So about 5-minute breaks, and then we can come back and start our next segment.
Happy Sabbath, everyone. Welcome back. For those who are viewing online, if you're now tuning in, welcome. And if you've been with us the whole day, welcome back. So now we are about to jump into our third segment for today. We are about to hear from our pastor who delivered the word this morning. And if you were listening carefully, you would have heard him mention that he and his wife were in debt. So he and his wife are about to give us, I should say, the blueprint on how to leave a legacy. They're going to give us all the tips we need in order to budget better, save, invest, right? Amen. Before we jump into that, I would love to welcome Marjorie to give us the opening prayer.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we just humbly come before your throne. First saying thank you, allowing us to be able to have this opportunity at the Young Adult Rally to not only fellowship with one another and to be fed spiritually, but also being fed practically when it comes to the topic of finances. Dear God, we pray that you will open up our hearts and our minds to be receptive to the information and discussion and the seminar that we are about to partake in. And we pray that you will perk our ears to hear the things that we, each individual, need to hear in order to be better stewards of the funding that you have given to all of us. Some of us have large or small portions, but dear God, we are all responsible for it. And we just pray that you help us to keep them well. So Lord, we pray we be with our speakers this evening. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
All righty, Pastor Levy and his beautiful wife. Go ahead.
All right, great. All right, good afternoon. Come on, let's clap it up. Let's clap it up. Get some energy in here. I know y'all had the Sabbath lunch, but nah, we're so happy to be here. Big ups to Rochelle. I just told her last minute that she was going to be doing this with me, so thank you. Yes, come on. No, well, the main reason is because she's such a huge part of the story. You know, I've dedicated my life, and I would say the better part of my ministry. I'm a pastor, obviously, but the better part of my ministry, like my niche in ministry, has been financial literacy, faith-based financial literacy. But a lot of people don't know that, okay, this goes way beyond just what I've studied and my experiences to my relationship. And so Rochelle is a huge reason as to why we do what we do. If we can just get that PowerPoint up, that would be helpful. And just to let our guys know back there, I'm just going to kind of call an audible, so I'm not going to go through the entire PowerPoint. Major reason why I invited Rochelle is because we have a story. I feel as if sharing stories helps to get information across than just giving you a ton of information. So that's going to be kind of the goal here. But if you need a title, it's Shift Forward, Leaving a Legacy Part 2. This afternoon or this morning, we did Part 1, where we just kind of delved into the biblical nitty-gritty of this, but to give some practical tips here today. So, my name is Troy Levy.
Rochelle Levy.
And we have been addicted to debt for most of our lives. We've had all kinds of debt, all kinds. We go to the next slide, and you might have to keep pressing. We've had, okay, yep, just stay right there. We've had student loans, all right? If you just wave your hand if I come near your seat with the kinds of debt that you have or have had, right? Car loans, personal loans, we owed family money, amen. Delinquent medical bills. We've had bank overdrafts, Lord God, too many to count. An unused timeshare that we bought on our honeymoon. I got to pause right here, babe. We drove, we didn't have any money. No. We drove from Jersey all the way down here to Florida for our honeymoon, drove the whole time, and we made the craziest financial decision, dead broke, and we made a $10,000 bad decision to buy a timeshare on our honeymoon. I blame y'all Floridians, I blame y'all, all right? $10,000, we just started marriage the day before. And we started off $10,000 in the hole. That's one of them.
We've had store cards, Macy's, Old Navy, Sleepy's, Mattress, Lumber Liquidators, Raymore and Flanagan, Ashley Furniture, trying to furnish our home. We have had it all. Until one day, Rochelle, if you remember correctly, it came to an apex. It all came crashing down one day. It was August, our anniversary. Rochelle was pregnant with one of our sons. Our last son.
Like 10 months pregnant.
Yeah. It was very pregnant. And, babe, you remember we didn't have much money in the bank, right? And by much money, I'm talking about we had about $20-something in the account. Rochelle, was it because we didn't make decent money? Nope. No. What's your profession?
I'm a nurse.
Okay, all right. I'm a pastor, so, you know, I'm not making that much, but it's decent. It's decent enough, Lindsay, right? We made decent middle-class money.
Yes.
Okay? But what was one of our major issues? We were living
paycheck to paycheck.
That's right. That's right. And so it was a funky time of month where both of us hadn't gotten paid in about a couple weeks. We were both due for a paycheck. But it was kind of like a couple days before we were both about to get paid. So y'all know how it is when you're living paycheck to paycheck, and it's just like, yo, you're just out of money, right? So we had like $20-something in the account, but we still wanted to celebrate our anniversary somehow, some way. So we knew we weren't taking any kind of fancy trip. Rochelle was pregnant, plus we just didn't have money. And we decided that we were gonna go to the Cheesecake Factory for brunch. You can go to the next slide. Now, how were you going to pay for the Cheesecake Factory?
Did we spend the weekend at that hotel?
We did.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't a month. Yeah. We had enough to spend, I think it was a night at the hotel, and then we had $20 left when we went to brunch in the morning, right? So how are you going to, spend $20-something at the Cheesecake Factory for brunch? That's almost impossible. What we had was a $200 Visa gift card that we had gotten from Verizon for switching to their internet and cable service. So, so I called, asked the front desk, hey, do you take Visa gift card as a form of payment? They said, yes, we do, no problem. All right, so we're like, all right, cool. We get there. I asked the front desk again, just in case, hey, do you take Visa gift cards as a form of payment? Yes, we do, no problem. So we get there. Babe, do you remember what you ordered? I remember what I ordered.
I think it was the brioche.
Okay, so maybe you got I'm sure you ate some of them. Yeah, you got the ricotta.
Pancakes.
You got the lemon ricotta pancakes. But you did eat some of my brulee French toast. All right. But the conversation was good. We're looking into each other's eyes, having great conversation at the table. Everything is good. Comes time to pay. The server comes over. I hand her this $200 Visa gift card. She goes, runs it. She comes back, says, hey, I'm not sure what's going on, but this just it's not working. So I tell her, look, I've never used this before. It's fresh, it's brand new. I saved it just for an occasion just like this. There's enough money on there. Run it again. She runs it again, comes back, and says, I don't know what's happening. It's just not working. Now, at this point, I start sweating. Because remember, babe, we at this point knew what we didn't want out of life, right? We had been, like I said, living paycheck to paycheck, but we didn't want debt anymore. We had seen the student loan stuff, and over our whole lives, we did some calculations. We discovered that we had borrowed $100,000 between the both of us. That's student loans, that's everything. We had borrowed $100,000. And we knew what we didn't want, but we hadn't yet gotten on a plan to get to the place where we wanted to be. So I say that because we had stopped using debt. We had stopped using credit cards and that sort of thing. So I didn't have any credit cards in my wallet to, as an emergency, a backup for this occasion. And so I'm like looking through my wallet, tearing everything up, and I didn't have anything. Now I'm going to deal with that in just a second because someone is thinking, see, Troy, you would have been all right if you had been using credit cards and whatnot. You need them for emergencies. You're probably absolutely right. We would have been all right for that day. All right, we'll pause there, come back to it. So I look at the Visa gift card, and I turn it around, and it says that you have to activate it, call and activate it before you use it. So I called, and I get a message, hey, our call center is closed on the weekends. Yes. And I'm like, dude, this is impossible. Now, my pregnant wife is on the other side of the table looking at me like I'm crazy, because I'm the one that kind of generally does the finances in our house. She's looking at me like I'm stone crazy, and I was. So I'm thinking, man, they're going to make us wash dishes. That's all I can think of. They're going to make us wash dishes. My pregnant wife will never forgive me for making her wash dishes at Cheesecake Factory right next to me. So she calls the manager over, and manager doesn't tell us that, but he goes on and forgives the meal. I did go back a couple days later when we had gotten paid, and I did pay the meal, and I did give the server an extra generous tip for her troubles. But that day, if you remember correctly, babe, sparked something in us. We went home to lick our wounds, but we didn't do that for long. We decided that that day was going to be the last day that we would ever be embarrassed like that ever again in our lives.
Never again. Yep.
Never again. And so we started getting on a plan. We started, doing things differently, where we just hadn't been doing it differently. We'd just been doing things the normal way. And we're here to share much of our journey with you. We believe that as much as we help people along our way who might be in similar circumstances, or maybe not, you might be way beyond that, that's fine, but to inspire something different within you. So, babe, I'm going to fast forward a little bit, and then I want to hear from you. I think the people want to hear from you as to some of the things that we ended up doing to make things different. But it took us 28 months or so to pay off. By that time, yes, we had borrowed total in our lives $100,000. By that time, we had $70,000 left to pay, and it took us 28 months to pay off $78,000. And I think that was December of 2017. We were debt-free, and we've been living debt-free ever since, by God's grace. All right, so how do we do this? We're going to start with the foundation. I have a program called The Blueprint that I created, and I'm not going to try to push this on you, but it's part of the plan that we followed, the principles that we followed in the plan. We're just going to weave our testimony in and out of the plan. So started with the foundation. Babe, the foundation is all about at least three things. You have contentment, right? The foundation of building a financial house. You have contentment, you have saving, and you have giving. Let's talk about those three things. Contentment. When we were getting out of debt, right? What the principles of contentment, like what did that look like for us at that particular time? What do you remember from that?
Well, I must say, just hearing the panel up there, you guys are good.
Yes.
Y'all are in the right direction. With contentment, I heard a lot up there about you all talking about knowing yourself and being comfortable in who you are. And with contentment, especially growing up in this day and age, where you have everybody flexing on the gram. Like, everybody is rich, everybody got it all going on, and so it plays with your mind. You want to keep up with the Joneses. So the main thing that we had to do, and that's what I feel as though everybody needs to start with, is just shifting your mindset as to, where do I want to be? What am I doing this for? Am I really going to just run the rat race just to show off, or am I going to do what I have to do to be able to live a life where I call the shots, where, you know, it's the life that I want to live in the future. So we really had to change our mindset. And with that, you know, sky's the limit. You know, when you break free from that mindset of having to impress people, that frees you with a lot. So changing that mindset and being content, because when you think about it, and I heard it up here as well, we have a lot. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how we open the closet door and be like, I ain't got nothing to wear, you know? And it's really like, man, there's so much that we have that we don't even realize, and what we're doing and the purpose that we do it for is just frivolous. One friend I have, he had a post that really like stood out to me, and I'm like, it's so true how it said we are killing ourselves going broke to prove to broke people that we ain't broke. And I'm like, man, that is so true. These people on the gram or whoever, they ain't got it like that. You know, they don't have land, they don't have property and stuff for the future. It's just for the moment, and it's just to flex and to show people, you know, what the persona they want to show. It's not reality. So really honing in on shifting your mindset as to how you want to live in the future, and not really what you're doing now, and really just being content with what you have.
All right, so great. So we started off the journey with contentment, because we never would have probably even started, let alone make it all the way through, if we weren't content with, all right, look, we don't need to ball out. We don't need to. All right, so good. So the next part is saving. One thing that we definitely did so that we didn't run into the so-called inevitable emergency is that we put aside just a super mini emergency fund for ourselves, which was, I think we did $1,000, so that we wouldn't have to, you know, go back into debt in order to, you know, during our debt payoff journey. So we just put that aside. Now, it wasn't a major emergency fund. It was a mini emergency fund. We knew that we were going to beef that up later on in our journey. So we did save. We had the spirit of saving, whereas we just didn't have that before. And so then that's the second part of the foundation of your financial house. And then the third part is giving. The third part is giving, and maybe we should switch that. Giving has always been number one for us. Yeah. The way we grew up, the way our parents taught us is that, hey, you be faithful to God no matter what situation you find yourselves in. So we didn't decrease our giving. We kept our giving exactly the same. We didn't stop giving or anything like that. We continue to give to the cause of the Lord.
Was it during that time that we increased our giving?
No, we increased our giving before that, when you had gotten your first job when we came out of school. Yep. So, all right, so that's the foundation. If you're building a financial house, you've got to be giving, you've got to be saving, and you've got to be content, have the spirit of contentment. So in the program, in the curriculum, we also move up to, in the financial house, to building four walls. And so the walls in the program are twofold. Number one is budgeting. So walls have two purposes. Number one, walls keep good things inside your house. All right? And then secondly, walls keep bad things outside of your house. All right? So keeping good things in the house is budgeting. Budgeting helped us, as the panel said up here, it helped to create parameters for ourselves instead of just spending mindlessly on things that maybe we didn't need or what have you. And so that really helped us. Babe, share, you know, one of our favorite methods of budgeting. I heard someone mention Mint. I think, was it you? Mint.com. So I still check Mint every now and then, even though I don't use it as often, but I still have it, right? Still useful to me. We've done like the, pen and paper budgeting. But one of the biggest things that helped us to budget well was?
So cash envelopes.
Yeah.
So we went through it all, y'all. We went through it all. So we
started off with
yes,
digital budget.
We did.
Why did we switch though?
We did the digital budget, but it was like literally just digital. Like we weren't really paying attention to it. So we were always going over budget, not keeping to the budget. So what really we found that worked for us is cash envelopes. So at the beginning of the month, we took all the cash we needed for that month and we put it in different categories: groceries, rent, clothing, anything you could think of that we know that we're going to spend money on. We did a category for it and we put the cash in there so that as the month goes along, as you're spending the cash, as you see it dwindle, once it's done, it's done. And there's no swiping or whatever. I heard somebody say up there, they just swipe, swipe, swipe. You don't even realize, So the cash envelope really helped us to keep to the budget and to make progress.
Not just helped,
yeah.
Not just past tense. We still do this today.
Yes.
It helps keep us on track. So what I do, usually I get paid on the 15th. Usually on the 15th, when I get paid, I'll go to the bank, withdraw some money that we'll use for the following month. So let's say, I think on Monday was the 15th, yes, I withdrew the money that we will be using on, what month is this? May, in June. I withdrew June's money. So once it turns June 1st, we both sit down, we divvy out the money that, that we'll be using for the various categories, and we just live like that. This still today helps to keep us on track financially.
And another thing I heard up there was like different budgets and different budgets that work for you. Another thing I would say to that is budgeting as your life changes. Sure. Like if you get a new job or if you lose a job. And one thing we used to do, we don't do it as much anymore. We used to sit and look at our budget like every month. Like at the top of the month, we'll see, okay, is there something that we need to adjust? Like last month, it was tight with groceries. Do we need to extend our grocery budget? So it's really good to go back and reevaluate your budget like regularly to just adjust and make changes where it needs to be changed.
All right. So that's budgeting. Yeah, budgeting keeps the good things in. Talk about your dollars and your income. It keeps it where it's supposed to be. And then walls also keep bad things out, meaning that accountability is going to be key. Now, obviously, for both of us, we are married, and so it's easy to, fairly easy, so kind of automatic. We didn't have to find an accountability partner because we both are it. But don't just assume that your partner or your spouse is just like both of y'all just on the same page. Don't assume that just because you're married. We were not on the same page for far too long, and we literally had to sit there and have money conversations pretty often, right? And it was almost like we not that it was forced, but we had to intentionally do it because we weren't just, it wasn't happening or whatever. And so once we got on the same page, and I tell couples that I do financial coaching, and mostly couples that sit in my office, the number one issue for couples that come into my office for financial coaching isn't an income issue, period. The vast majority of people that come into my office make good money, all right? The issue is being on the same page, working together. And that requires accountability. That requires Rochelle looking at me dead in my eyes. Troy, you were wrong for spending that much money when we didn't agree to you doing that. It requires that. By the way, I do that to her sometimes too. Yeah. I couldn't just let that one slide. But yeah, so accountability is going to be key. Now, if you happen to be single, you know, you're going to need someone who can tell you the truth about yourself. You're going to need that. You're going to need someone whom you can submit yourself to and say, yo, I need you to keep me accountable. Here's my budget. I need you to, look, call me every week or every time I get paid and ask me what I'm doing with my money, okay? I need you to keep me accountable, and that community is very, 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 very helpful towards financial wholeness, all right? So those are the walls. Let me see. So we also have spending and whatnot. I'm just thinking through it all. Let's talk, babe, about the actual debt payoff, the demolition of the debt. We talked demolition in the program. It took us 28 months. Were those 28 months of bliss? Were they the worst 28 months in your life? Was it somewhere in between? Talk to us about what it was like.
So it came with a lot of dedication and focus. Like, and I give it to him mostly, like, because he was on it. Like, he literally did not buy one piece of clothing for a year. Literally.
Except for that one time.
I was going to tell them, like, we went to a wedding. Where was this?
Nashville.
Nashville. Yeah. So we went to a wedding. He left his tie. And so he was like, okay, I have to get a tie. He was officiating the wedding. So we went, bought the tie, and right after the wedding, he returned the tie. He wasn't playing any games.
I was playing no games.
No games. Yeah. So, like, I give that to him. Like, he really was on a rich, well, we both were. We were. You know, so, like I said, ladies, we like to look nice. We like to, you know, do, you know, become correct, you know. So, but with me, I heard about thrifting and all that stuff. Thrifting is like the best. First of all, you'll find the best quality of things thrifting that you will never, ever find in this day. At this day and age is fast fashion. Nothing is good quality. It's all like cheap, but thrifting is good. Another thing I did was I did my own nails during that time when we were trying to pay off all of our debt. I did my own hair. So doing things like on your own. And I mean, it's a lot of YouTube stuff out there. You can figure out how to do Bantu knots or whatever on your own, just to make sure that, you know, you're still staying apart, but it's on a budget, pretty much.
And big ups to you, babe, because I feel like that was a huge sacrifice that you made.
Yes.
You know, it's expensive, I think, you know, for women to, you know, kind of keep yourself up or whatever. That takes a lot, and you really dedicated yourself to the process and followed my lead. Thank you for that. For, you know, through that whole debt payoff. You know, that 28 months, I feel like it was well worth it, and you made it worth it, not just because of those things, but, you know, most months we didn't go out to eat.
No.
Like, we barely went out to eat during that whole time. And you made, like, some of the best meals, simple meals, you know what I mean? But they were good. They were tasty. It was good. And, you know, with the kids, we have 3 kids. One thing that we ended up having to do, of course, kids want to go out and be active and whatnot. We found plenty of free things for us to do, or, you know, inexpensive things. So we didn't come to Disney World during that time. You know, you didn't find us in Florida probably at all during that time. But
play with your cousins.
Yeah. So yeah, I just want to give a method, and if you can, guys in the back, I'm not sure if you could see. This is slide number 17, and it'll the heading will say debt pyramid. If you can find the debt pyramid, yeah, thank you much. All right, so this is what we ended up doing to pay off our debt. This was the method that we had. So we got our head out of the sand, right, and we listed everything that we owed. And there were some things that we were just, oh, shoot, I didn't know we owed that, or shoot, I didn't know that. I knew we owed it or owed them, but I didn't know it was that much. That's just natural. You got to get your head out the sand and just look at it. You'll be surprised how much just looking at it what that will do for you. So we listed everything. And our method was listing our everything from smallest to largest. And we paid the minimum on all of our debts except for the smallest debt. And we just went ham on that smallest debt, right? Like put everything we could. So everything that we were saving, from restaurant money every month to, hair money and nail money and clothing and all that kind of stuff. Like we were just, who's saying, I think you were saying you're a minimalist. We forced ourselves to be minimalists during that time, right? And so everything that we were saving, we put it towards that smallest debt. And once that took no time. That probably took like a week or two, or we might have just done it immediately. Then we rolled over everything that we would have been paying towards that debt, the minimum payment plus the overage that we were creating, and put it on the next smallest debt. And that might have took maybe 1 month, and then put it on the next debt after that was done. And it felt like we were making progress. So instead of just like throwing a blanket on everything and say, okay, we're going to put the equal amount of money on all of our debts, and then at the end of it, we'll just pay everything off at the same time. We felt the progress. And so feeling the progress is just kind of that motivational tool. Like it helps you to finish the goal, right? And so if your goal is to get out of debt, I highly recommend this method, the debt pyramid, of listing your debt smallest to largest and paying them off one at a time, doing the minimum payment on everything else except for that smallest one. All right, does that make sense? I feel the fatigue here, and just want to make this interactive. I need you to talk back to me. Does that make sense? All right, any questions that you might have about the debt pyramid? And so we'll just pause very quickly, and then we'll move on in the presentation, and then take more Q&A at the end. How much time do I have, by the way? What time do we need to end? All right, cool. What you got?
That lump sum of money, let's say 50,000. That lump sum of money, you could save it for it to gain interest, invest it, or you can pay off the debt. What would you choose?
Oh, yeah, every time, if I already have like a mini emergency fund, which you already did, I'm paying off debt every time. Yeah, and that's exactly what we did. So there were, I think, probably like a couple years there, I think we got like a decent income return tax thingy. And anytime bonus, she would get bonuses from work. And anytime we had that like kind of lump sum, we would just throw it to the debt every single time. Yeah. So I would highly recommend. Man, getting out of debt is going to be, not that it gives you, it's not just the final step, but it's a great first step. So whatever you can do to get out of debt, like right here and right now. So we even temporarily stopped investing. We temporarily stopped investing because the financial freedom that we desired was a higher, we valued that more in the short term than investing, now we're back to investing, So it wasn't a long term, like, hey, we stopped investing for 20 years. No. We stopped investing for those 28 months, and because we just valued that financial freedom. Yeah. All right. Good. So we don't have too much longer, but I do, babe, want us to just talk about spending. Man, this was a great conversation up here. Yo, when y'all talked about like marketing and just the games that psychological, marketing is all about psychology. Yeah. I want us to know. Even, dude, tell me your name one more time, man. Shane, thank you. I think it was you talking about product placement in stores. Yo, this is so true, man. Yeah. This is so true. And we, just had to control our spending and recognize when we're spending, when those kinds of marketing games we're having a hold on our spending, right? So from ads to product placement to jingles to like everything is geared towards you spending more of your money on them. Everything. Everything. And so we just kind of had to recognize those things and make a decision like, hey, we're not going to spend money because they want us to spend money. We're going to be very intentional about how we spend. Now, I'm like you, dude, I don't mind splurging, right? It's in the budget. It's okay to splurge, but budget your splurges, right? Make sure that you have a plan, because believe it or not, if you don't have a plan for your money, guess who does have a plan for your money? They do. Oh, absolutely, they got a plan for your money. So what happens when we just like spend without like and doing it mindlessly? What's happening is that they have a plan and their plan is being executed very, very well, right? That's what it is. And so we combat that by having our own plan through budgeting, through having a goal in your mind. And this is probably one of the last things that we'll talk about, having that goal. Babe, like when we were getting out of debt, what kept, like 28 months is a long time. It was more than 2 years to kind of keep our hands to the plow. Did you feel like giving up at all, like during that time? Did you just feel like being like, yo, bump this. I'm not living like this no more. Let's just go back to the old way.
No, because it goes back to the mind shift of, hey, I want to live a life where I'm not like tethered to like anything and where I can live freely. So that was always my North Star. And with that mind shift in mind, and you know, with both of us, like, I don't think we've ever had that problem with like we don't really care about like what people think or whatever. I don't think we've ever had that problem, but it still sneaks up because people like, even your family members, like for the longest, like he said, we have 3 kids. And for the longest, they're like, oh, you need to get an SUV. You have 3 kids now and all this stuff. And it's like, no, they can all fit in the back of our, you know, regular car.
Regular
but,
sedans. Sedans have three back seats. Like, okay,
yeah, so like there are other influences besides like keeping up with the Joneses. You know what I'm saying? Like family members and, you know, a lot of things here and there. But our North Star was always like wanting to live a different life where we're not living paycheck to paycheck, where we're not just throwing money on interest and things of that sort, and just wanting to be free of that. So I wouldn't say I ever wanted to give up or anything like that.
Well, speak for yourself. I felt like giving up.
Well, you didn't buy clothes for a year, so.
Yeah, no, that was, I'll be
and
honest.
he likes to be fresh. So.
Yeah, I like to dress up a little bit, whatever. And that was, I would say that was one of the toughest things of my life, not buying any clothes for that one. That was difficult to me, and I did feel like giving up. I did feel like, as I had done many times before, hiding purchases from you. I'm guilty of so many financial sins, man. I used to hide purchases from my wife, like buy stuff on Amazon and just like hurry up as the UPS guy was coming and just like, yo, hurry up, man, give me this package before my wife
like,
finds it.
I don't have access to the Amazon
I know.
I saw all your purchases.
Yeah, but I would say for me, it was like, okay, I always went back to that Cheesecake Factory story, and I'm like, yo, I'm never, even when I feel like giving up, I think about it, I'm never being embarrassed like that again. I need financial freedom in my life, and that was just one thing that just really spurred me. And I think for me, and we've talked about this several times, you know, one thing for us, and this isn't bragging at all, I don't care what y'all think about me, but we really wanted to give more and support causes more. That was one major thing for us that, you know, we wanted to support family. We love Adventist education. That's something that we just really wanted to support even more. And we just thought about how cool it would be to start scholarships, on which we did start a scholarship fund actually at Pine Forge. And, you know, just start scholarship funds at every school that we had ever attended, you know, so that kids can benefit as we benefited from
from the Christian education. You know, it was one thing that was major for us. We just really wanted to be financially free to build God's kingdom. That has always been our thing. Before we close up, just want to, there was something on my mind that I really wanted to touch on. Financial freedom, since we've gotten out of debt, right, has really blessed us in a way. We've been free to do something very, very special, right, that we just celebrated about what was that, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Okay, come on, share with everybody the special accomplishment that. Okay, well, Rochelle graduated from with her DNP in nursing. That's a doctor of nursing practice. Yeah, this is 3 weeks ago. We were in Chicago, living it up that week for graduation, and we funded her education debt free, like just out of pocket, man. Yeah, so we still have a couple more months to pay. She really finishes in August. But and it's been an expensive process. But thank God we have the money to just, you know, it's just a freedom to be like, oh, yeah, $2,500 tuition, no problem.
And just to piggyback on that, unfortunately, my father, he had gotten ill, and so we were taking care of him. And during that time, it was just a lot, like being a caregiver and working and in school. So a part of that time, like, I had to minimize my hours to also, at one point, I wasn't working. But financially, we didn't feel that strain, like, at all. Like, at all. We did not miss a beat. And so that is because of freedom. We still had the funds to live normally, even during the time where I wasn't working or not, you know, doing minimum working. But if we did not have that freedom, we would not have been able to do that, that's like, right, at all. So it just goes to show that when you are financially free, you are literally free from everything. Like, you're not tied to a job, you're not tied to this, you're not tied to that. You literally can move and maneuver the way you want to. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we praise God for the journey. It hasn't always been easy. There have been tough times, and getting out of debt does require some grit. It does. I'm not going to paint the picture where it's just like all super rosy and just easy. It does require a sacrifice from you, but we're here to let you know that on the other side of those tough times and that sacrifice, man, we would never ever go back. No. We wouldn't have had it any other way. Even right now, I would do another 28 months of debt elimination if I had to, just for that financial freedom and the flexibility. So we're here to just give you hope. We're not uber rich at all. We don't make a ton of money. You know, we're middle class. You know, we're not working class or anything like that. But it is very achievable, and we're hoping that you'll be able to be inspired by our journey and by the freedom, that financial freedom that we're living, to live your own financial freedom journey. Thank you. So we'll take. Yeah, I ain't skipping you. I ain't skipping you. Come on, Pink Blazer. Come on now. Come on, ask your question. What you got?
Well, first, thank you all so much for sharing your story with us. Really do appreciate it. Definitely inspired. What advice can you all share with us in regards to investing? We touched on it briefly on the panel, but there's so much information out there about investing, Black wealth, investing. So what advice, especially for young adults, can you share with us so that we can, investing is a risk. Mm-hmm. However, we can have a calculated risk.
Yeah, good question. So there are just some general rules of thumb for investing that I have. Firstly, you want to understand what you're investing in, right? And, you know, if you can't understand like every single financial model of the stock market, that's fine, right? But so that's number one. Generally, you need to understand what it is. Secondly, you should require a good track record for that investment. Okay, so And by good track rate, I mean 10 years or longer for that investment. So, and I'm speaking more so with the stock market, but generally speaking, no, almost anything. So, trying to think how appropriate it would be to measure. So there is a investment, I'm gonna call it a scam, that kind of fell, I'm sure many of you have heard about it. It was very big in Adventist circles, Haitian Adventist circles. This fell about last year. It was a pyramid scheme. And it did not have a long track record of yeah. Okay.
Is it the Susu?
No, not the Susu.
Oh,
This
okay.
it was okay. It was MDFX. MDFX. If you've heard of the story, okay. Anyways, yeah, it did not have a long track record at all. Like the fund had just started, and it was not good. And if I had found out about it later, I would have done my best to make sure that people that I love, lost a lot of money in MDFX. And I would have made sure that they took their money out as soon as possible, or would have never invested in that. And I don't have all the ins and outs. I mean, I don't have time to go into all the ins and outs. But that's number two. Make sure that it has a good long track record. Number three, yeah, research. Thank you, Jan. Number three, what was I gonna? Make sure that especially when you talk about the stock market, man, S&P 500 is just easy. Okay, you can be a passive investor and just do S&P 500, pour into it, and forget about it. All right, and do it often. You could do it, take something out every paycheck and just put it in there. If you don't know about the S&P 500, it's the fund. It's a mutual fund with the 500 largest, or it's formulaic, but let's just call it the 500 largest companies in the U.S. And yeah, you're basically an investor into those 500 companies. And on average, you take any 30-year average of the stock market, or the S&P 500, the stock market is going to increase in value by, on average, about 10% or so per year, right? Now, you're not going to get that on any kind of, in Bank of America or, any kind of savings account. This is just good, solid investing that you should do often and just leave it in there. Now, there are some, maybe here's the fourth tip. Don't worry about the highs and the lows of the stock market, all right? A lot of people, when the stock market tanks low, like it has, I think, in 2008 and 2009, it tanked low during the Great Recession, and then obviously in, when was that, was it 2020 or 21? 21 it went really high, but 2020 it tanked low, I think, right? Yeah, don't worry about that, right? It's a roller coaster ride. That's okay. In general, though, the trajectory of the stock market is going up. So when it goes low, don't try to withdraw your money because you're scared. Look, just leave it in there and set it and forget it. Don't try to withdraw and then you can't time the market. That's just, yeah, don't try to do that. But yeah, over the next 30 years, you'll have literally millions of dollars if you're doing it often and just kind of setting it and forgetting about it. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Good question. Good question. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right.
Question.
Yeah,
Hello.
Come on.
So, a lot of young adults are single. What do you all, you all gave a lot of great tips this evening. What steps can a single young adult take in order to put themselves in a good financial position before marriage?
We talk about this all the time. We got married when we were 22. So we got married really young. But when we think about it, and we're like, bruh, if we were single, we would be, I'm like, there should not be one single person out there with no kids, no financial responsibilities that should not be a millionaire. We're like, there should not be one. if you're single, you should be a millionaire, and you don't have no little kids to pay for. I'm telling you. So we talk about that all the time. Like, just any single person out there should be a millionaire. So one thing that we always talk about is, so when we first got married, we moved from Andrews to New Jersey. And we just, we didn't know what was out there. We weren't really making that much money, so we really couldn't find a place to live just right off the bat. And the best thing that could have happened to us is that we ended up living with my parents for, it was like 4 or 5 years?
For 4 years, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're single and you just want to stock up or whatever, if you're able and you're comfortable with that, I would stay with my parents.
That's right. Yeah.
And stock up as much as possible. And
that's actually how we were able to buy our first home.
Our first house.
Living with her parents. First of all, I was not happy about that. Let me just, put that out there.
But
at first I wasn't happy about it.
The situation too, and that's another important part, is that the house was a 2-family house. Yeah. So it wasn't like we were in the same space.
Right. We were in a completely different apartment. Same house
yes.
though. Yeah.
So that helped a lot. I don't think he would have done, because I'm one of 9. He's the only child. So it
was a culture shock marrying into a big family. I felt like I had no privacy. Anyways.
So if you're able to do that, I would definitely do that.
And I look back on those years, and like I said, at first I was annoyed that this was literally a choice that we had to make.
Yeah.
We were kind of forced into it just based on our situation, and I'm like, I just don't want to do this or whatever. But I look back on those days, I'm like, bro, we should have stayed 4 more years.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Like, at all.
Her mom, man, I tell people, her mom is a great cook. She went to cooking school in Haiti. So I tell people all the time, man, I lived in a Haitian restaurant for 4 years, man. That's what I tell people, yes. Cook, man, meals every day.
Every day. Another thing I would say as a single person is live below your means.
Way below, yeah.
In general, that should be the rule of thumb as of now. But especially as a single person, like, you don't have to be flexing. Like, you don't. Like, live way below your means, and this is the time. Because trust me, when you get a spouse, when you get your children are expensive.
That's right.
Expensive is not even the word. It's just on another level. Like, children are expensive. Like, once you get to that adulting with kids, with all that stuff, it becomes harder to make leaps and bounds in financial progress. But as a single person, take advantage of this time of your life when you don't have that many responsibilities that, you have to tend to.
Yeah, so I just want to say that living with your parents for 4 years set us on the trajectory of, we were able to stack up for our first home. That's how we were able to get the down payment and whatnot. Getting our first home, and I think we were probably, 27 when we bought our first home or whatever. But that set us on the trajectory. So also to answer your question about investing, home ownership is an investment as well.
Yes.
And so, and it's a great investment if you're ready for it. There's some people who aren't ready for it, and if you're not ready to purchase a home, you just shouldn't do it, right? But we were ready. We had saved up the down payment. We were good to go, and that set us on a trajectory that, it just changed our lives. So even when we ended up moving from Jersey to Maryland, we sold that home, bought another one. With the money that we sold the Jersey home with, we were able to buy our Maryland home and completely renovate it, debt-free. You know what I mean? And so the value of that home, of our current home, is just we never would have been able to do what we've done financially, especially with our home, if we hadn't made the decision to just all right, let's just stay with mommy and poppy for, for a few years until we can. And one of my fewest regrets, not that we didn't stay longer, man, we should have stacked up way more than we did. I didn't realize. I'm like, man, I thought I was living below my means.
Yeah.
I really wasn't.
No.
I really wasn't. When we moved in, we only had one kid, right? And we should have stacked up way more than we did, but we didn't.
$600. Can you imagine $600?
Our rent was $600 a month.
Rent.
Man.
That's
Yeah.
what they were charging us for three bedrooms,
Three bedrooms, two bathrooms.
two bathrooms.
Dude.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah.
Like that was
Yeah.
the life. But stack up, man. Like,
Yeah.
there's no excuse. If you're single, and you're making money, you're in your career.
You should be a millionaire.
You're in your career.
Babe, how many times you gonna tell them that though? That they should be
You're in your
millionaires?
career, millionaire. Easy. Easy. I don't want to hear no excuses.
Unless.
All right. Any other questions? Any others? We're here, so grab us while we're here. Talk to us.
Okay, I got another.
Yeah, come on, third one. Come on,
Okay,
come on. I
I'm
love
gonna ask
this.
another one. So, in the panel discussion, one of the topics that we talked about was student loans. You know, a lot of us, we come from, generations or family where it's like, hey, education, that's freedom. However, we don't always necessarily have the means for it, so we resort to student loans.
Yeah.
If you could reverse the hands of time, what would be, I know we gave some advice on the panel, like, community college, but what advice would you give to a young person even today when they're like, I want to go to college, however, this financial part, I just don't know what to do except for fill out FAFSA.
Yeah. So I feel like we were just talking about this sort of kind of about like, first of all, it's difficult to tell. I was 17 when I went to, we were both 17 when we went to college. It's difficult to tell or get a 17 or 18-year-old to be sure about what they want to do in life. Especially, I think nowadays that's even more true. And say I'm wrong if you want. I do feel like the maturity level of kids, nowadays is just not like, it's not the same. So it's difficult. So I would say, man, you probably shouldn't start just yet, or don't go to like any kind of major school. I'll be like, Shane, man, if you're unsure about what you want to do, or even if you are sure, but let's just say you're just unsure, man, go to community college. You can start the ball rolling and just let it be as cheap or inexpensive, I should say, as possible. Now, thankfully, for my career, I was sure about what I wanted to do. I was probably about 16 when I decided that I was going to answer the call to pastoral ministry, and that was fine. So my point is, you don't want to be out there wasting money just going to school because that's what everybody does, right? And I might be a bit against the grain with this comment by saying that a 4-year university isn't for everybody, okay? So, you have some people who, vocational school, which is like, I have a cousin who he does HVAC. Dude, he makes good money, right? Go to vocational school if that's something that you feel the Lord is leading you in doing. But
also,
tips.
the
Go ahead.
panel answered it. I think a young man mentioned, I think it was Shane. Right? Mentioned about paying their way through college.
Right.
Like, we both worked during college. And so it's doable. Working your way through college, scholarships, there are dumb loads of scholarships for anything out there. Our plan for our kids, like from, I would say, even junior years, their job is going to be looking for grants, looking for scholarships and stuff like that. So that, we do have a plan even from now of paying for their college, but also tapping into scholarships and stuff like that beforehand to pay for college.
Yeah, so we do have an ESA for all of our kids, which is the Education Savings Account. So if you don't know about it, just look it up. That's one way that we're preparing. But like, let's say for someone who's currently in college right now, what can they do right now to make that less, or to avoid student loans? As we said, find a cheaper school, whether that's community college or an in-state school. If you choose not to go to like a Christian school or whatever, that's fine. But go in-state. Don't go to, you know, Louisiana somewhere and you're paying out-of-state costs or whatever. Literally, your taxes help to pay for Florida state colleges or universities. So take advantage of that. Working your way through it. Let me see. And by work, like, it kills me when people say, oh, I don't want my kids to have to work. Man, make them Negroes work, man. Make them work. You know, and actually studies have shown that kids who work their way through school actually get higher grades. Yes. And not just that, but they're learning now the life skills of balancing, you know, balancing your schedule and that thing. So I think the advantages of working through school are just invaluable. But yeah, looking for, like, making it your full-time job to look for scholarships, like during that summer before school. Those are just some helpful tips. Beyond that, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that should cover the vast majority of it. I think. Yeah. All right, my brother. Yes, sir.
How you doing? My name is Joseph. I work in a financial aid office, and I can't tell you enough how many student loans I authorize every day or so, every time I work, and I'm just floored, because people say education is expensive, and it really is. It's really expensive, but it doesn't have to be. For those who are getting the Pell Grant, for example, if your household income isn't that high, more than likely you're getting the full amount of Pell Grant, which is about $6,500 a year. With that amount, if you're going to a community college and you're staying at home with your parents, you could really utilize that to cover your full tuition and then receive a refund on top of that to use towards any of your educational expenses that you may have. But that's only if you play it smart. Again, that's at a community college level. If you do 2 years, you could have your whole 2 years covered for, your whole tuition with your Pell Grant. Granted, if you don't make that much in your household, you'll get the full amount of your Pell Grant to cover that. And then you could transfer to a university and continue to use the Pell Grant. There is no need, and I'm telling you just from working in a financial aid office, it's really not that necessary in my view case. However, most of the student loans that students take out is usually if they're going out of town, they're going to college. Why? They're going to take out more additional student loans because they need to cover additional expenses. They need to cover room and board, food, transportation. And understandably, yes, you need to cover these expenses, but there are so many different ways that you can save your money, cover your tuition, and still be able to complete your degree and afford your education. So there are many different ways, and you mentioned it earlier, taking out scholarships, but if you could really leverage that 2-year community college, utilize that cheaper tuition, it can really be covered in full.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Joseph. Yeah, come on. What you got? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a question for Rashal. You all mentioned that while you were paying off debt, your husband, he wasn't really buying clothes or anything like that, but you were at some points, right?
Yes.
So how did you factor that in so that you can still enjoy that, but still maintain that balance while you're paying off debt?
So we budgeted for it. So in our budget, it was an item for clothing. So we budgeted for that, and like my thrifting brother here, I didn't thrift like that much, but I made sure that whatever I bought was affordable, but yet also like sustainable. Like, you know, I can wear it in different, you know, different circles, different aspects. I can transition it. So you know, you see both of us, you know, we stay fly. Okay? So, you know, there's different things you can do to mix and match and, you know, sort of rig it so you can get the best out of one piece of clothing. You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of that going on. Like I said as well, I was doing my own nails. I was doing my own hair. Like, all of that, it makes a difference, especially nails nowadays. Like, it's a lot to maintain. and hair. It's a lot to maintain. So a lot of, like, home stuff that was being done, like, a lot. So yeah, that was mainly what I was doing to, you know, stay sane and stay pretty, you know.
Yeah, I think I tend to be like on another. If I have a goal, I tend to just kind of go hard. I don't care what else is happening. So I feel like it was a bit easier for me to just like go hard on it because this is just part of my personality. That really isn't your personality. I mean, you go hard on stuff. I'm just saying, like, I can be extreme easily, just like that.
Yes.
That's not you necessarily.
No.
So I was able to, you know, maybe make sacrifices in certain areas that, you know, I just had to understand that, all right, Rochelle ain't going to do that. And I had to be all right with that, you know. So, yeah, we were
was
fine.
able to make adjustments where it was still like, okay, we're making progress towards our goal. We're not breaking the bank over nails. You know what I'm saying? So.
All right, Shane, what you got, man?
So I want to mix it up a little bit. So you talked about savings. If you have savings but you have debt, you would throw probably that at the debt. What if you have, like, say, a property, right? And so in that situation, you have debt, but you have a property. You know, like in the last year or 2 years, property values have skyrocketed. So would that be something that potentially you either hold on to property and still, you know, work a way to pay your debt slowly, or sell the investment property and use that money to pay off all your debt and start over?
It depends on, it's a very good question, and I think it depends on the situation. I would just like trying to answer it in a vacuum. I would lean towards trying to hold on to property. But if you're talking about, hey, I have $250,000 of debt and I'm a social worker, no, not to social workers at all, but, you know, it's just not one of the higher paying professions or whatever. And it would take you the next 10 years to pay off that $250,000 of debt. I would feel like, say it again?
She said refinance.
Refinance? I mean,
but
I
there's
don't.
a thing called house poor.
Yeah,
Are you
absolutely.
house poor? That's another thing too.
Yeah.
Because even though you have a property, it sounds nice.
Oh, Lord.
You know, you have a property, it sounds nice, but is it really more of a detriment to you than it is a blessing? Yeah. So that's another thing that needs to be factored into that situation.
Yeah, so in the scenario, like, you know, if it takes the next 10 years for you to pay off the debt, I would then probably lean towards selling. That's just me, because we've learned to value the financial freedom, you know, and getting to that would, I mean, you'll probably always say, oh man, I'm gonna kick myself if I sell this, but man, sacrificing 10 years of financial freedom, man, that's a long time to not be financially free and to struggle towards that. So you know, if it took that now, if we're talking about a 2-year thing, no, I'm keeping it. And I'm doing everything that I can to pay off those debts and, you know, in order to live financially free. And then we can talk about that income property and live even more free with that. But it just depends. Just like answer it in a vacuum and throw a blanket statement across everything. Yeah. Good question, though. Yeah, Max, good to see you, man.
Hi.
Where your income fluctuates, what's a good tool to budget with that? Because I've looked at the Dave Ramsey app, several apps, but all of them tend to have, if you have a set income,
So what do you do? What's the best way to budget if your income goes up and down?
Yeah, good question. So the best way I can answer that is, what is your kind of worst month financially, and maybe budgeting off of that worst month. Now, if your worst month is, let's say, like a $500 month versus your best month being like a $5,000 month, then maybe kind of taking the average or like a lower average of that. So maybe budgeting for, I don't know, $2,000 or $2,500 or something like that. And yeah, just doing it that way. And, you know, irregular income, yeah, I get it. We live in a gig economy. That's just part of what it is. But you still, you're not immune to budget. And I would dare say you should budget even more so because the income is irregular. And God forbid, I'm not wishing ill, obviously not on you at all, Max, but you don't know if there's a month or two where it's just like, you know, this ain't happening right now. And so I would say budgeting for the worst case scenario almost. And then if there's overage after that, praise God, you know, just kind of count that as a blessing from the Lord. But in terms of like a budgeting tool that helps you to do that, I'm not sure if, you know, the digital tools like the apps and whatnot account for it. I really don't know. So you may have to kind of do the analog route and just kind of maybe write it out and print those sheets out for yourself every month or whatever. That might be helpful, man. I don't know. But yeah, man, I hope that helps. Good question. All right. Yeah, come on. We know you got about 5 more in you. I know you do. Come on. Ask
You
them
know,
all.
we just so, you know, in today's society, you hear so much about multiple streams of income. Multiple streams of income. You can't just depend on your income from your 9 to 5. But sometimes it's hard to decipher what those multiple streams should be. So what advice would you have, especially for young adults, as far as figuring out multiple streams of income for ourselves? Passive income. Girl, you better say that. Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, good delineation. So not all multiple streams are necessarily passive. I have a friend of mine who is in education. I forgot like what exactly it is that she does, but she got a working from home in education, and she was doing the job in 3 hours a day. So she ended up getting another position that's very similar or the same or whatever with someone else. And so she works 6 hours a day, but she's making like $200,000 a year. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't. There's some things, you know. She might sell drugs. I don't know. Is that? Come on. Nah, just joking for everyone on camera. Yeah. So, I would say you want to make sure that whatever the second thing that you're doing is worth your time and energy. Sometimes that can be tough to decipher, especially when you first start out, because when you're first starting something, yeah, it's going to take more time and energy to, first of all, get it up and running and then get used to the schedule or, you know, those kinds of things. But, you know, yeah, maybe give some time, and after, let's say, a year or 6 months or a year or whatever, if you're just figuring like, all right, this just isn't worth the ROI, return on, I'm not getting the return on my time and energy and that sort of thing, then, hey, there's nothing wrong with giving it up and moving on and maybe trying something else. But multiple streams of income is definitely a great idea. And if you can find something passive, as she was saying, even better. But yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah.
And finding a niche is good too.
That's
like
right.
finding something that you're passionate about, something that you're good at, and figuring out a way to make money off of it. You know what I'm saying? So with Troy focusing on finances, you know, people think pastor, he don't know nothing about finances, but he has found that passion in finances and developed his own thing so that, you know, he can make money off of that. So just finding something you're passionate about and really finding ways to make money off of that is another way you can get different streams of income.
your skills, the skills that you already have. So, like for something on the side, you shouldn't have to necessarily like add or like go back to school for a side gig. It's just not about. But all of us have skills. You have experiences, talents that is just already inherent in who you are. Man, tap those things and run away with it, man. People, Americans, I'm talking about like just America. We are lazy.
Yes.
So anything to make life easier for someone else, man, capitalize on it. You know what I mean? Well, Pastor Lindsay told me that was the last one. I don't know. I'm putting this on you, Lindsay. I ain't.
Well,
All right, it's the last one.
Okay, we quick.
Yeah.
What do you think about, let's say you, whether retirement or, decide to move to another country where the U.S. dollar significantly is more beneficial, just, packing your stuff, go there, work remotely, or like I said, maybe decide to wait a couple years, retire, and take your money over there. Do you think that's a good idea in terms of generating wealth?
I love it. I'm all for freedom. I'm all for freedom. What will bring you the most joy? Of course, within the sphere of serving God and building His kingdom. You know what I mean? So that's always first and foremost in my mind. How can I serve God? How can I build His kingdom? And outside of that, if something brings you joy within that those parameters, man, do it. Now, the only caution I would say is just make sure like the tax implications and the citizenship or whatever visa stuff, like make sure that that's very clear, that you still have access to the money that you made in the U.S. while living over there for however long. There might be some different rules for various countries, but if those tax and visa things can be worked out, man, live joyfully, man. Yeah, get out of America. It's stressful there, man. Yeah. All right, God bless y'all. Love you. Thank you so much for listening. Come on, let's thank Rochelle for being up here. Appreciate it.
We thank the Levies so much for just lending us their story. There is so much power in telling your story, and I'm sure that today we were able to be liberated in some respects from hearing how God has delivered them from the cuffs of debt. And so we are so thankful for that. We're about to wrap up this segment, and as you know, we have been pressing on. This felt like a marathon today, right? I haven't had one of these days at church in a while, but it's been a good marathon.